Hello friends, welcome back to a new video that is MCQs on immunology, and this is the part 17 of this series of videos on immunology. So the first question of this video, that is question number 526. So the following is an isoantigen. So options are HLA, pollen grains, spread and ox red blood cells, or option D, thyroglobulins. Okay, so the right answer is about the isoantigen is option A, that is HLA, that is human leukocyte antigen. So what is isoantigen? An isoantigen is an immunogenetically active material, especially a protein or polysaccharide that is present only in some individuals of a particular species, which are responsible for the formation of antibodies. So the examples are human with different blood groups, and the HLA, that is the human leukocyte antigen system or complex, is a complex of genes on chromosome 6 in humans which encode cell surface proteins responsible for regulation of the immune system. Okay, so let's move on to question number 527. So necrosis in allograft rejection appears to be visible to the naked eye between option A 2 to 3 days, option B 3 to 9 days, option C 10 to 11 days, option D 12 to 13 days. And the right answer is option C, that is 10 to 11 days. So necrosis in allograft rejection appears to be visible to the naked eye between 10 to 11 days. So what is necrosis? Necrosis is a form of cell injury which results in the premature death of cells in living tissue by autolysis. Okay, so what is allograft? So allograft means this is between different members of the same species, like kidney transplantation, heart transplantation, lung transplantation. So allograft means transfer of the organ from one person to another person within a species. Okay, so let's move on to question number 528, that is in allograft rejection the graft rejects completely between option A 2 to 3 days, option B 3 to 9 days, option C 10 to 11 days, or option D 12 to 13 days. And the right one is option D, that is 12 to 13 days. So in allograft rejection, the graft rejects completely between 12 to 13 days. नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन देखेंगे. नेक्स्ट इज इन ग्राफ्ट वर्सेस होस्ट रिएक्शन which are the correct ones? So option A, graft has significant number of T cells or their precursors, or option B, recipient possesses antigens absent in graft, or option C, recipient is as usually immunodeficient, or option D, all of the above. So which one is the correct about the graft versus host reaction? So the right answer is option D, that is all of these options are correct about the graft versus host reaction. Okay, so let's move on to question number 530, that is a fetal wasting syndrome in neonatally thermectomized mice is known as option A Runting disease, option B grunting disease, option B Hashimoto's disease, or option D Bruton's disease. And the right one is option A, that is Runting disease. So that is wasting syndrome. This fetal wasting syndrome means which refer to the process by which a deliberating disease causes muscle and fat tissues to waste away, and a thymectomy is an operation to remove the thymus. Okay, so let's move on to next question, that is virus induced tumor cells express option A V antigen, option B T antigen, option C TST antigen, or option D all of the above. So right answer is option D, that is all of the above. So virus induced tumor cells express V antigen, T antigen, and TST antigen, all of this. Okay, so what is V antigen? V antigen means any substance capable under appropriate condition of inducing a specific immune response, that is known as V antigen. And TST antigen means tumor specific transplantation antigen. Okay, so next question देखेंगे. Next is TSTA antigens are associated with option A infected virion, option B nucleus, or option C cytoplasmic membrane, or option D cytoplasm. And the right one is option C, that is cytoplasmic membrane. So TSTA antigen are associated with cytoplasmic membrane. So next question देखेंगे. Next is Bruton's disease is option A X-linked, A gamma globulinemia, or option B Wiskott-Aldrich syndrome, option D D George syndrome, or option D Nesloff syndrome. And the right answer is option A, that is X-linked gamma globulinemia. Okay, so Bruton's disease is a X-linked gamma globulinemia, that is known as XLA. Okay, so XLA is a rare genetic disorder that affects the body's ability to fight infection. So in people with XLA, the white blood cell formation process does not generate mature B cells, which manifest as a lack of protein called gamma globulins, including antibodies in their bloodstream. Okay, so next question देखेंगे. Next is DiGeorge syndrome is an immunodeficiency disease of option A T cell, option B B cell, option C combined T cell and B cell, or option D phagocytic dysfunction. So the right one is option A, that is T cells. So DiGeorge syndrome is an immunodeficiency disease of T cell. So if a person has DiGeorge syndrome, one copy of chromosome 22 is missing a segment that includes an estimated 30 to 40 genes. So this is the consequence of DiGeorge syndrome. Okay, so let's move on to question number 535, that is chronic granulomatous disease, that is CGD, is due to failure to option A form toxic form of oxygen, option B phagocytose, option C use hydrogen peroxide, or option D release myeloperoxide. And the right one is option A, that is it form toxic forms of oxygen. So chronic granulomatous disease is due to failure to form toxic forms of oxygen. So chronic granulomatous disease is a diverse group of hereditary disease in which certain cells of the immune system have difficulty forming the reactive oxygen compound, most importantly the superoxide radical, due to defective phagocyte NADPH oxidase used to kill certain ingested pathogens. Okay, so let's move on to next question, that is question number 536, that is G6PD, that is glucose 6 phosphate dehydrogenase deficiency is due to failure to option A form toxic forms of oxygen, option B phagocytose, option C use hydrogen peroxide, or option D release myeloperoxide. And the right one is option B, that is phagocytose. So G6PD deficiency is due to failure to phagocytose. So next question देखेंगे. Next is myeloperoxidase deficiency is due to failure to option A form toxic forms of oxygen, option B phagocytose, option C use hydrogen peroxide, option D release myeloperoxide. So the right answer is option D, that is release myeloperoxidase. So myeloperoxidase deficiency is due to failure to release myeloperoxidase. So next is Chedick-Higashi disease is due to failure to form toxic form of oxygen, or option B phagocytose, or option C use hydrogen peroxide, or option D release myeloperoxidase. And the right one is option C, that is use hydrogen peroxide. So Chedick-Higashi disease is due to failure to use hydrogen peroxide. So this is a rare autosomal recessive disorder that arises from a mutation of a lysosomal trafficking regulator protein, which leads to a decrease in phagocytosis. The decrease in phagocytosis results in recurrent pyogenic infection, albinism, and peripheral neuropathy. Okay, so next question देखेंगे. Next is actin dysfunction is due to option A reduced locomotion of granulocytes, option B phagocytosis, option C use hydrogen peroxide, or option D release of myeloperoxidase. So the right one is option A, that is reduced locomotion of granulocytes. So actin dysfunction is due to reduce locomotion of granulocytes. Okay, so next is question number 540. So Wiskott-Aldrich syndrome is a combined immunodeficiency disease, or option B X-linked recessive defect, or option C characterized by thrombocytopenia and eczema, or option D all of the above. So the right one is option D, that is all of the above are related to Wiskott-Aldrich syndrome. So Wiskott-Aldrich syndrome is a rare X-linked recessive disorder characterized by eczema, thrombocytopenia, immune deficiency, and bloody diarrhea. Okay, so let's move on to next question, that is ataxia telangiectasia. That is option A is autosomal recessive disorder, or option B has hepatic telangiectasia, or option C is a B cell defect, or option D is all of the above. And the right one is option A, that is it is a autosomal recessive disorder. Okay, so it is a rare inherited disorder that affect the nervous system, immune system, and other body systems. So this disorder is characterized by progressive difficulty with coordinating movements, that is ataxia, beginning in early childhood, as usually before age 5. Okay, so next is DiGeorge syndrome is characterized by option A deficient cell mediated immunity, option B hypoparathyroidism, option C thymic hypoplasia, option D all of the above. And the right one is option D, that is all of the above. So DiGeorge syndrome is characterized by deficient cell mediated immunity, hypoparathyroidism, and thymic hypoplasia. So the next one is congenital X-linked agammaglobulinemia is not characterized by absence of B cell and plasma cells, normal cell mediated immunity, severe recurrent infection with pyrogenic bacteria, or combined immunodeficiency. And the right one is option D, that is combined immunodeficiency. Okay, so let's move on to next one, that is macroglobulin and millionaire molecule are names given to option A IgG, option B IgM, option C beta globulin, or option D gamma alpha globulin. So the right answer is option B, that is IgM. So macroglobulin and millionaire molecule are names given to IgM antibody. So the next one is for successful establishment of infection pathogens must have to cross for successful establishment of infection pathogens must have to cross option A surface barriers, option B enzymes of host and mucus, option C both A and B, or option D B always and A occasionally. So the right answer is option C, that is both A and B, that means surface barrier and enzymes of host and mucus is the right one. So for successful establishment of infection, pathogens must have to cross surface barrier and enzymes of host and mucuses. So next question देखेंगे. Next is any pathogenic agent that penetrates host immune barriers encounters with Option A, non-specific resistant mechanism. Option B, specific immune response. Option C, both A and B. Option D, neither A nor B. And the right one is option C. That is, both A and B is the right one. So any pathogenic agent that penetrates host immune barriers encounters with both A and B, that means both non-specific resistant mechanism and specific immune response. Okay, so next is question number 547. The immune system is composed of option A, cells, option B, organs, option C, tissues, option D, all of the above. And the right one is option D, that is all of the above. So the immune system is composed of cells, organs, and tissues. So the next question is the ability of individual host to resist particular infection or disease is option A, it's luck, option B, immunity, option C, pathogen boon, option D, it is inherited. So the right one is option B, that is immunity. So the ability of individual host to resist particular infection or disease is immunity. So let's move on to 549. So the branch of science that deals with the immune response to invading organisms and its concurrent fight with immune responses to resist infection is referred as option A, course of disease, option B, immunology, option C, parasitology, option D, infection myth. So the right one is option B, that is immunology. Okay, so let's move on to the last question of this video, that is the non-specific immune response is also called option A, innate immunity, option B, natural immunity, option C, non-specific resistant, or option D, all of the above. So the right one is option D, that is all of the above. So the non-specific immune response is also called innate immunity, natural immunity, or non-specific resistance. That means it is all of the above is the right one. Okay, so thank you for watching this video. Okay.